live here in a second.
I'm dressed for the occasion today.
We are live.
Oh yeah.
Boom.
Look at that.
Son. Let me pop out the tweet.
Yeah.
Tagged everybody. I wanted us to actually be live before I actually sent out the tweet, because I feel like that's false advertising.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, it technically can be, right? Or is it false advertising if you get there early? Like, does that count? Like, if you got there before the scheduled time and it hasn't started yet, is that false advertising? Did someone lie to you, or is it your fault?
You could still show up. It's kind of like showing up to a concert before the doors open and you just kind of wait in line outside, right?
Yeah, like a nerd.
Yeah.
You're gonna be a big nerd.
Look. Maybe people want their front row virtual seat to the Power Rangers podcast,
Well, no, everybody knows it's the cool people show up like 2 hours into a concert, because it takes before you're the main performer you're there to see, it's like 3 hours at minimum. So you don't want to show up before the concert starts. You don't. Because all you get is weird banter like this. Just
you get the sound test and the two bands that you've never heard of that you're like,
Wow.
That's assuming you're going to concerts in 2022.
Well,
sorry, I went there.
Which is a whole other discussion.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Here, hold on. I'm gonna cheat real quick. Give me 1 second. Hello, people. We have 2 viewers. Hello, 2 viewers. How are you guys?
Oh, thank you. I feel like a king. I just
Why? Why do you feel like a king? I feel like a king of the world's smallest kingdom.
Hey, a king is a king.
Still a king.
That's
true. Still got a kingdom.
You know what? You were not wrong. Oh, that's amazing. All right, so I'm gonna pop this in here. And what time is it? 12:23.
Is it 12:23? Oh, it is.
That's 1:23 in some parts of the country.
Oh, Chris, just gotta be different. Bam.
1 point. All right.
It's gotta be different. Yeah. All right. Cool. So, all right. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna cheat real quick and do this, and then if somebody's mad at me, they can get mad at me. What? Why not? It won't let me retweet something.
Well, it just wasn't meant to be.
How dare you? No,
it was not meant to be.
TweetDeck, you suck. All right, you know what? We're gonna get engaged here for our. Oh, thank you. It showed it that I did it from the account, and it won't actually do it from the thing. Thank you so much. All right, so I will preface for the 2 people that are here with me who are joining. This is in true Putty Hour fashion, by the way. We don't have an intro. We just start talking.
Right. You want us to getting into things or something?
Yeah, we don't. This is like jazz. Everybody's just we don't do a formal intro, but I feel like because we've been gone for so long. When was the last episode we did of this, Nick?
It's best not to mention it. No.
I think we should.
We are officially in the 2.0 era. Black and gold does not exist anymore, man. It does not exist anymore.
So many wrestling references here now. Okay,
I love it. Let's go. Let's do it.
Yes. So I do feel like because we've been gone for so many, we should have a little bit. We should have just a little intro. So
2.0.
For those who don't know, I am Matt Aguilar. This is the wonderful Nick Valdez. We have had a podcast called Power Rangers, the Putty Hour, and then we kind of put it on hiatus because the world started crumbling and everything.
The world went on hiatus. Yeah, the world went on hiatus.
And I thought, okay, well, if we're gonna bring it back, we might as well make it all fresh. So we're doing it live here on video, so you can heckle us. And then 2, who better to bring than Toku Chris with us? So I feel like thank you so much for taking the time out of your crazy schedule and joining.
I have kids. That's my crazy schedule. Thank you for having me on. I want to say I was on before the world ended. And I think if I'm not mistaken, I want to say I also did one with you at San Diego Comic-Con before the convention scene ended.
Yes. Now that one.
That was with that was with Michael from Power Rangers Now. RIP that account. Oh man, that's that's going to be what 3 years ago now this summer.
I mean,
Nuh-uh. Is it really?
Yeah, 2019 was the last time we all saw each other in person.
Oh wow! Oh my
god.
God.
Well, minus Nick. Nick wasn't there, but
I was not. The world went on hiatus before that too for me. So let's just say, the Putty Hour. It was our Power Rangers show long before all of that happened, and now we're bringing it back. We're 2.0 style. This is a brand new setup.
Keep saying that.
There's no other way to say it. Like it's a brand new setup. We're here on what platform is this?
We are on Twitch. We're on Twitch.
Yes.
Twitch.tv/
Yes, this is
Night of OA.
PowerRangers.biz.co. And we are very excited here. Yes, so the fact is, it took a minute to come back, but we're here. The people who have joined us, all 2 people, thank you so much for joining us here to ramble. I did see, I'm going to try and say it, Caxipus 06. Did I get that right? I think I got it right. Anyway, so what is this? This is a Power Rangers podcast of all things news, Power Rangers related. Because we are doing it at the top of the year, figured why not go through 2021, talk about things that we loved, go through some of the bigger news stories, how we feel about them now with some time to breathe, and then look forward into 2022. As with all things, I think in both episodes that Chris was a part of, we talked about the Lightning Collection, and we talked about dream picks and picks of the past year. In both of those, both of those, I'm pretty sure I said I wanted a new Donna figure, and we still don't have one. But I did say I wanted a Ranger Slayer figure, and we did get one.
I think that might be the only thing we got from our wish list, though.
And it was dope. So
that might be the only wish list item that came true.
Okay, yes, I'm gonna
maybe Phantom Ranger is on someone's wish list. I can't remember. It's been it's been almost 3 years now. So
almost 3 years. So that's what we're doing here. So hope you like Power Rangers, because that's kind of all we're talking about. I feel like the best place to start for 2021 anyway. With the way this franchise, we joke about the 2.0 era, and it has, the Hasbro era has now been a thing now for years. We actually have some data to look at, as opposed to just
it does feel like it just happened last year.
It does, but we actually have some hard data now, right? And we've seen what the plans are. I mean, for the most part, at least for kind of the merchandising side, the show side, the movie side, we will definitely get to.
Yeah, we have a pattern that we can use to decipher what we think is going to happen next, essentially.
For sure. Well, okay, so starting there, how do we feel about this era so far to this point? Are you satisfied? Are you happy? Is it kind of along the lines of what you thought it would be?
We'll let Chris go first since he's the guest here.
Yeah. When it comes to the Lightning Collection, right? That more collector oriented kind of premium line, so to speak. I feel like that's pretty much gone as expected, right? 4 figures every 3 to 4 months. Now, how they release and the quality of them or consistency of them, or the fact that they're released before they're announced, that's a different ballgame. But the overall, from A to Z, so to speak, as far as how it comes out, that's pretty much been the same, right? I think when it comes to your TV show line, right, whether it was the ending of Beast Morphers and the beginning of Dino Fury, to me, I feel a little disappointed in the sense that we've had to wait almost a full year to get the Dino Fury Zords out there. Right, the show started and you had no Zords, and I don't like that there's only been 2 waves of actual figures.
Yeah.
If you compare that to Bandai America back in the day, and I know this is a stretch, but Bandai'd be like, "Hey, here's wave 1," and by the time you got wave 1, wave 2 was already popping up on shelves. They were just pushing those 5-inch figures out like they were nothing. Here, it's kind of like, here's your 6-inch figures if you can find them, and then they're going to sit there for 5 to 6 months, and then you'll get a case refresh with only 1 new figure added to it, and that's it. So that to me has been a little disappointing, along with the assortment of what's available. And maybe it's because we were spoiled back in the early 2010s, right? You had a gimmick for each toy line, so that gimmick had its own price point, whether it was Ranger keys or Dino Chargers, or even heaven help us, Ninja Steel Stars or what have you.
Yeah, Ninja Steel Stars.
But they had their own price point that worked with the Morpher. That was really cool. And then you had the figures, you had the Megazord, like the Megazord came all together. Then you had auxiliary Zords that you could attach to it, all at different price points. You always had something new and something refreshing, or like that refreshed the shelves anyways that came out. You don't see that with Hasbro right now with the Power Ranger like Dino Fury line. So to me, that's been a little disappointing. Not to my wallet, which appreciates that, but it's one of those things where time is now hitting you when you sit back and go, gosh, I remember when, and you can go all the way back to 1980s and Toys R Us and be like, look at all the cool toys on the shelves too. Let's face it, I don't think Target and Walmart stocked their shelves till about a week and a half ago over the last 8 months. So yeah, everyone, I would say almost everyone's probably purchased what they want online as opposed to in a store.
Right. And beyond the obvious hiccups from the blob, it's more just what's disappointed me is along the same lines of the choices in some of the things. Like, for example, you follow up the White Ranger helmet with a Pink Ranger helmet, and that's cool because I'm gonna get all of them, of course. I'm gonna have whatever they have, But then there's a Zed helmet, and I'm just like, that's super cool, but it's also not in line with the other choices you've made. It's like, why would you go so far outside of the setup already? It's like, why wouldn't you do a blue or a black, or like it's more to the order of things. And like just nitpicking even further, like the In Space Blue Ranger, is the one that starts out with the glider. And out of all the Rangers, you would start out with the glider. What made you think blue? And then you already have blue in that 2-pack. And, it's like, yeah, maybe it's to save time, or I don't know. It's just what in my head, I'd only be buying it for the glider. And so then it becomes like $40-$50 for a glider. And it's just, it's that kind of mentality that gets me. Like, I get limited production. I get, what a sloppy blob of a 2 years it's been. But then scale it back and do something else instead. Or like, that's my thing.
Like almost a general lack of forward thinking. Kind of like they released Psycho Red in a 2-pack, and they released Psycho Blue at GameStop, and then surprise, there's an $80, $100 Psycho Ranger pack on Amazon. You're like, well, I've already spent $40.
Yes,
two figures, and now I got to spend $100 to get 2 that I already have. And now here you are with TJ, the In Space Blue. It's like you just bought him in the 2-pack, and now the first deluxe figure assortment is TJ again in the same color, just for the Galaxy Glider. Has a quality, or at least at the point of press photos, had a quality issue with it. Things weren't right on it. So you're paying essentially $30 for a glider that isn't even, representative of what it's supposed to be of what appeared on the show. So without a doubt, Nick, I think you're 100% correct on that.
Yeah, I have to agree with it does feel a little like certain parts of the outline were laid out, but then we get to another tier and like other things hadn't been nailed down yet. And so like one arm is not talking to the other arm. It feels that way. I don't know if it is that way, but it feels that way. So it's kind of like, okay, well, if there is a plan where you kind of thought these things through and said, oh, this is how we're going to do these things, I would be very curious to just see what the reasoning is.
Would it be fair? Because we know that Toy Fair 2020, around Toy Fair 2020, like the team shifted, like the team behind the scenes shifted, right? Like because John Warden joined the team from Transformers, left Transformers, he's now Power Rangers and Ghostbusters. He became the design director for the brand. But all the people that we knew prior to that, and I know Matt, like I don't remember names off the top of my head, but you remember that whole team that we talked to in 2019 and early 2020, they're gone. It's a whole new team now to talk to. So part of me wonders how long the development time for Power Rangers is. I know what the development time for like Transformers, all that stuff. I spent years covering that, but Power Rangers is a little bit different. What's their lead-in time? Like, from the time they go, hey, let's make this figure till it comes on the shelf. Is that 8 months, 12 months, 16 months? Because if it's 16 to 20 months, that makes sense why you would have, In Space Blue with Psycho Silver. That could have been planned as the last thing from a previous team. And then now the new team comes in and it's like, well, hey, we want to do this. What can we do? Well, we already have this figure. This is a cost saving measure and we can just add this to it. There you go. Let's do that. there's a lot of questions that have answers. It's just until someone sits down like behind the scenes privately in one of those like, hey, off the record conversations, we'll never know.
Right. No, I agree. I think, and also I know it's one of those things, right? I know the pandemic. I don't want to just like throw that aside. I know the pandemic obviously knocked certain plans out of place and delayed things, but like just the whole concept of, hey, we're going to release this figure over here, and then we're going to release it in this pack over here, just seems kind of okay. That seems like an odd choice. But I understand, like, I mean, when we've talked to the team before, you know, they're very much like there's a lot of things that go into these decisions, right? It's reusing molds, or hey, how can we get we have all of our costs on this side of the assortment this time around, so maybe we need to cut things here. Like, I understand like all that plays into it, but just some of those decisions of having the same figure and not even like with a different color scheme or slightly different armor, like it's not changed in any way, available in two different spots at two different price points, you just feel like you're kind of almost yourself
almost at the same time,
right? I mean, you know, just
Matt, no, are you telling me the metallic armor isn't enough for you? Are you telling me that's not different enough?
Okay,
Nick, you have to be quiet, because I'm sure there's a comic shaded Ranger of every color waiting in the wings to pop out at GameStop at any minute. Okay, so we're not pink. There's at least 6 more colors they can pick from, right? Like,
yeah.
So here's the thing on that. I know that because I make fun of it, because I can easily make fun of it. I'm like, yeah, I'm not buying all those, right? I might buy one. I'm probably gonna.
As soon as they release one of those like see-through versions of each Ranger, you know the ones where it's just like the base color, but it's all like, as soon as they release a line of those, I'm buying the same figure, but like. But it just depends on the color. It really just depends on which color. You know?
So I can't completely knock it, because I'm also the same dude that got all giddy when Hasbro went, hey, here are these X-Men animated series, animated color like figures, and I'm buying every single one of those.
I pre-ordered every single one of them. It's like, it's still the same figure that came out like 8 years ago. Just in pastel paints now versus.
I gotta have that Wolverine.
It really all depends on the color, right? Like metallic armor didn't do it for you, Matt, but something will come along that will.
Let's be fair, metallic armor was also a chance to correct head sculpts on the helmets, right? Get new civilian head sculpts out, right? And then keep MMPR fresh in the rotation of the product, which means we haven't talked about the future, right? We haven't talked about what's coming next. That's a whole different segment. But remember what happens in 2023. Because I am willing to put money down. You see a 5, 6, or even a 7 figure box set releasing on something with some premium something another, along with 2 Phantom Ranger repaints. I'm calling it right now, 2 Phantom Ranger repaints.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's funny. So before we move into 2022, because that is a good point. I will say my biggest thing is something that Chris touched on, and it's the fact that one of the things I love most about 2021 in the PR world is Dino Fury. I adore that show. Yeah. I adore the cast. I love that thing, right? So naturally, yes, I got the basic figures, but I wanted to buy Lightning Collection figures. Like, I would have loved to at this point have half that team already. Like, in those lines. And the fact that they just announced and revealed Zeta, right? It's the first one. We don't even have it yet. Like, that's coming later.
Yeah.
When do we complete that team, right? So, like, for me, I understand that's not their approach. Their approach is doing different teams in different ways and all that. But at the same time, it's like you have a show out now that you have to me, capitalize on a little bit. So it's just a planning thing for me. Maybe that's a planning thing of
maybe that's a reaction, right? Maybe that's the reaction to some shelf warmers from a previous waves when they did release figures that came out at the same time as the show. I think we can still find Ravi on a shelf somewhere, probably on a Walgreens or a small Walmart somewhere. I think there's still at least 1 or 2 right next to some Bandai Legacy in Space Yellow Ashleys. So, my assumption is that was a gut reaction. That was a, hey, well, let's wait and see, because we smashed those Beast Morpher figures out, 3 of them in 2 waves, and it didn't come back the way we wanted. Now, granted, we're still waiting for 2, if not 3 figures in Beast Morphers, maybe even 4.
Where the hell is my Zoe?
Right. Well, there's rumors that she's coming up at the end of 2022, but
and where's my Roxy?
But yeah, but that's the thing. It's like Dino Fury, especially, like, yeah, those characters are very well written. More so, I think, than a lot of the previous iterations of teams in the last 5 to 6 years, maybe. Yeah. Like, I definitely I mean, who doesn't want a Dino Fury Green Ranger at this point? Who doesn't?
Yeah,
I know there's like 6 people somewhere out there raising their hand with angry eyes and stuff like that. And maybe, and yeah, but screw those people. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You're missing the opportunity, because more so than any other fandom I've ever been a part of or ever have paid attention to, Power Rangers especially, it's very MMPR and whatever's on right now.
Yeah.
And when you get past whatever's on right now and you move to the next season, it's whatever the new season is and MMPR. And whatever was before it suffers a little bit in terms of what people want. And I don't want to see that happen to what is arguably a pretty it's a safe show, but it's still entertaining.
Yeah, for sure. I'll be right back, by the way. Keep going.
Yeah. So
I gotta go open the door for my wife.
So
bye.
Yeah.
Nick, the show's yours. Do whatever you want.
Yeah, no. On that same wavelength, Dino Fury's been it's been a surprise, right? Like it's not exactly, like you said, it's not exactly reinventing the wheel in terms of a Power Rangers show, but that in itself is sort of reinventing the wheel, given how the last few years have been not exactly in that same ballpark even. Like it's like a return to form or something, I guess.
Dino Fury feels fresh and different, despite the fact it is literally in so many ways Beast Morphers with a different shirt on.
Yes, there we go.
And Beast Morphers, while it was definitely different than like your Ninja Steel, it also felt like it kind of tiptoed away from your traditional Power Ranger tropes here and there a little bit. But at the same time, like it kept itself in its safe little circle. Like it didn't do anything drastically different. The problem that I had with Beast Morphers is that aside from the ending, right, the premiere and the series finale, I don't remember anything else that happened through most of it. I can tell you what happened at the end. I can tell you what happened in the beginning. But if you want me to answer some question about something that happened in the middle episodes, from episode 2 to 38, I might struggle to help you, other than like the Dino crossover.
That's fair.
Which
that's
makes
fair.
To me, it's like that's the problem, that it was very forgettable. Now, what Dino Fury is doing that I like is they're not waiting for the finales, whether it's a mid-season or the season finale, to have big moments happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's really important, what's setting it aside from the other stuff. It's going to be, I'm going to remember these moments that are sprinkled throughout the season, which will help me remember the season more overall. Same thing that you got back in the days of the old shows that we all love so much, whether it be MMPR, Zeo, Lost Galaxy, whatever. There's certain moments you remember. We all remember, Ryan Carter appearing in Lightspeed Rescue, the first appearance of the Titanium Ranger, right? Like, he kicked some serious butt before he became a wimp for the rest of the season. Like, it was awesome. That's right, I said it. But that, that was cool. And we all remember all the cool scenes from In Space. We remember the Phantom Ranger showing up in space. We remember, all the little cameos you got sprinkled out through In Space, all little random team-ups that happened, because big moments happen when it wasn't dictated by a show schedule. And that's what Dino Fury is doing. You have Lord Zed pop him up out of nowhere. Spoiler, if you haven't somehow watched it already. And that's cool. You have the Morphin Masters kind of just showing up. It's like, oh, okay,
that was
cool.
the first episode, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, what a way to start that. Nick didn't like it.
So this is my big issue with Dino Fury, right? Like,
sir.
the more I say, yeah, it's a return to form, because it goes back to the classic of just like very small episodic adventures that continue to lead into something else, because the original series, Monster of the Week, but if you actually watched it from week to week, like a lot of us did, you'll notice the little character beats in between that start to shift from here and there, especially in like the later seasons. But But in here, it's so lore heavy. It's so lore heavy right from the beginning, and that might be its issue. Like, I don't is this Hasbro's way of doing things? Because we're getting that connected movie. Oh, we'll talk about that, right? Like the connected things they got going, but like that's a lot to dump on a premiere and then continue it. You know, the Morphin Masters is a lot. That's
what we wanted forever.
That's not what I wanted.
Nick, let me ask you a question. All right, so here's my criticism about just the overall general direction that it seems like Hasbro's taking Power Rangers in terms of origin stories, right? Because if you remember, the Morphin Masters was a throwaway line in an old episode of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yes.
And literally untouched until Kyle Higgins, Matt Groom, and Michael B. I'm not even going to try his last name, Michael Bustucci or what have you, as they were all working with Ryan Parrott and stuff on Shattered Grid, came across that one line and was like, hey, there's a piece of lore we can take and expand on.
And they expanded.
And expanded. It went through Shattered Grid. It went through Beyond the Grid, and it's kind of continued in the comics, but now the show's jumping on it, right? But here's the problem. Most of the people that watch the show, which is apparently not a lot of people, don't necessarily, kids anyways, they don't necessarily read the comics, right? Like,
yeah,
my 5-year-old doesn't read comic books, so he doesn't read the comics. He has no idea who a Morphin Master is, right?
I mean, as Matt will remember,
if you are making big story beats in these shows and you're expecting the audience to already know the significance of who a Morphin Master is, like, why should I care about a Morphin Master? Well, obviously I know what a Morphin Master is, and yeah, I care, but does my 5-year-old, does a random 6 or 7-year-old out there know who a Morphin Master is? Do they even really know who Lord Zed is?
But do they need to? Like, do that? Okay.
Yeah,
but it kind of feels like you're kind of feels like
you could go through
the show is being like, check out. Well, I just said they were big moments, right? They were big like beats in the show. They're big beats because we know what they are. But there's a chance that these people that are watching have no idea why it's a big beat. Why is Lord Zed back? Why is he? Who is he? Why is he a big deal?
But to me, Lord Zed is a different tier of reference than.
Well, yes, that is. He is an iconic reference,
right?
Like,
so the people who are going to know who that is, like, that's going to get a massive pop. To use a wrestling, God, so many wrestling terms being here. So, like, that's going to get a massive pop. I get though the Morphin Masters, like that is a deep cut, almost a non-existent cut until the comics kind of ran with it, right? But at the same time, I don't think Dino Fury, me enjoying Dino Fury, doesn't really have much to do with the Morphin Masters. It's cool that it's in there, and I enjoy the tethers, but at the same time, like, you could remove part of that, and I wouldn't really enjoy Dino Fury any less. And for kids at that age range, because that is clearly something for us three here. That age range, that is for us. No 5-year-old or 6-year-old cares because they don't know who they are. There's not. You're right. They probably don't read the comics, right? At that age, or if they do, hey, kudos to you. But
applaud the reading comprehension at age 5. Let's go.
But like,
way to go, school system.
But like, at the same time, they don't need to. I feel like if you watch a Marvel movie, and I am not, before I get just railed on, I am not putting the Power Rangers like Dino Fury up to like the scale of Winter Soldier. Okay, so ease up. But at the same time, if you look at a Marvel movie, there is a ton of stuff in there that is typically for hardcore nerd fans like me and like Nick and like you, right? Like, there are people that have been reading those comics for years. We understand who this character is supposed to be in 50 issues, and we know this person. There's a lot of tethers to that. That said, I talk to a lot of people who just go in and go, man, that was an awesome Spider-Man movie. And they don't even need. How many people saw No Way Home? And I don't know how many people I tell you have not seen those other Spider-Man movies. They're two of the main characters, but they don't care. They don't need to know. All they
spoilers,
need to know is that they were
I was gonna say spoilers.
It's been long enough.
There's nothing in the title of this podcast that says No Way Home spoilers.
Spoilers. There's spoilers everywhere. So like, there's nothing that like takes your enjoyment away. I feel like you will get more out of it. Absolutely.
So what you're saying, Matt, is movies are movies and comics are comics, right?
No.
So
No, that's not what I said. I said you don't
would
have
agree
to
with
know
me.
that stuff to
Comics
enjoy
are
it.
comics and TV's.
No,
TV,
I am not
right?
ascribing to your it's not canon if it didn't happen at the show.
Right? It's
Oh, that's a whole nother hill to die on. Let's go.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, a little bit since this is the first introduction. Yeah. So comics are comics and TV is TV.
So Nick,
those are two
tell
completely
me,
different mediums.
tell me, did Tommy end up with Kat or did Tommy end up with Kim?
Oh, in the long run,
Because in the comic, which is based on the show, and it's supposed to be a continuation of the show, and at one point, spoiler, was highly under consideration to be made into a little miniseries. He ends up with Kat and has a kid.
Yeah.
And the show never really implies it, though, in Ninja Steel. Like, it never actually comes out and says, like, you think they're holding hands. It's kind of hard to see unless you really pause the screen, but it's never really shown.
Yeah, my understanding was always Kat because she was the older version of herself in that one Christmas episode where he was older. And he was like, unless I'm mixing it up with another one, but like he was an older Tommy and she was like an older Kat and they were like beating their grandkids. And I was like, oh, okay, so he ends up with Kat. So because of that, in my head this entire time, he's ended up with Kat. Because you can say what you want happened in the comics, but if I didn't see it in front of my eyes,
oh my god,
and and he's not like
you were the problem.
She gave him Kimberly gave him a Dear John letter and took off to the Olympics. I don't care what happened in
Pan Olympics.
Oh yeah, the Pan Olympics.
Okay.
I don't care what happened in the real world and what happened in comics. That's what happened.
So in my mind, as it stands right now, the show told me they went off to a conference. In my brain, that never happened, and they became Omega Rangers, and that is legit. Like, that is the real canon of that, because otherwise...
But then why didn't Jason morph into the Sun Ranger or whatever he is in the Dino?
Should have. Yeah, he should have. That was a
because
fault.
that didn't happen.
No,
that didn't happen.
No, I'm sure at some point, Ryan or whoever is writing the book at that time will give me a perfect reason why that didn't happen.
Dear Ryan,
I'll be able to go. I know Matt Groom
at Comic Book over the
thinks. I'm just saying it happened. That totally happened, and that means that Yale exists in the television universe as a Ranger, and
which makes Meow Rangers canon.
Happy. Boom.
Which makes me happy.
We're Jeff Lobing this.
TV and comics to comics.
No, they're all the same.
And then and then there's Megaforce, or no, not Megaforce. What's the Twitch show?
Hyperforce.
Yeah, then there's Hyperforce.
That's canon too.
Which is in the comics and in the show.
That's canon too.
Yeah, so
what are we gonna do? It's in the show and it's in the comics.
Like, you're losing this, Nick. You're losing this.
That's the hard part.
But to go back to the central point, what?
Because that's
so
no.
Jumping back to what you were saying about how it doesn't really take away anything from Dino Fury if you took that stuff away, but it also, in that same light, does it add enough? Like, does it if this is the formula for future, for future shows or whatever, I think what would cement it for me is if we get a classic MMPR kind of thing with it, or like a classic MMPR to Zeo or to Turbo, where you get the same central cast who inherits whatever next power is going to come their way, and keep the canon going from there rather than dump them out after season 2, and keep repainting and rebuilding and all that stuff with each cast. Or
my fear is we're heading into a direction where we will eventually get, like, I am, and this is going a little bit off script, so my apologies, but not that this is scripted, but like we have a formula of which way with this show was going to progress.
There's a formula? What?
Surprise! No, he didn't send you the show notes, Nick.
Yeah. My rambling paragraph of show notes. Here's all the crap we might talk about. That was essentially my show notes.
But no, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw Hasbro in the future do their own series, right? Do their own
Right.
show, whatever, and literally have a cast involved for 2, 3, 4 seasons if it's successful. But then go into the same realm that you see with every other show, where it's like, okay, well, now that that's dried up a bit and kind of died out in popularity, we'll wait a year and then we'll reboot it again, change it just a little bit, and bring a whole new cast in and do that for 3 or 4 years. That's what I fear, and maybe not fear, but that's what I feel the future is going to be, because you look at these successful shows, like streaming shows that are out there right now.
Yeah,
it's casts that stay on for the most part for 4, 5, 6 seasons, and then eventually it just ends. And then you see like maybe one character come back a few years later and continue it as an offshoot. You know, like you have all these sitcoms like Frasier spawned from Cheers. You're seeing that again now, but with these streaming shows.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's kind of I feel like we'll get if they don't hire Taylor Buchanan to be Tommy Oliver in this Power Rangers reboot movie that they're going to do at some point. Like, to me, I'm just throwing that out there right now. Like, if you haven't watched Cobra Kai, like Taylor Buchanan is literally like a young Tommy. Like, just do it, shut up and do it already.
Yeah, he's really good.
He's really good, and he really looks like a young Tommy. Like, put him up with like the 1993 Tommy, and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah.
And he's really good. So, but like if they don't do that and eventually spawn him out on his own series, like that's an incredibly missed opportunity. But how can you not see that happening? And then you have all this lore created in the comics, which are canon, like Lord Draken and the Shattered Grid and all that stuff, and the Coinless Universe. You know, that's a whole other series that they can explore down the road, because people like that. People like the happy stories. They like a Power Rangers story, but they love to see the Power Rangers fail, and they love a story where the Power Rangers have sucked and nothing works and everything's broken. They love that dark, twisted, evil stuff.
Yeah, give me a Days of Future Tommy, an adaptation of that one book that came out,
Soul of the
Dragon.
Yeah, do a Soul of the Dragon series,
which
and tell me
canon.
like
starring Taylor Buchanan.
And tell me that would like be a huge hit.
Oh, it would be. Okay, so I kind of like somewhere in the middle, I think.
Okay.
Because I understand, because I actually I ultimately love the idea of keeping the same core cast for as long as possible and then switching out people as you go, right? I'm okay with that. And I like the idea of people sticking around for a longer time, because that's just how you get more character development, and that's how you get richer stories.
Right.
You spent time with these people. Ultimately, though, I understand, I also enjoy the Final Fantasy approach to things of, hey, everything is its own thing. And I don't mind that. But what I would like to see is maybe, okay, like Dino Fury is a perfect example. We're getting a season 2, right? Dino Fury, we're going to get that like we do typically. But then like after that, if that has proved popular, and that will be a different benchmark, because we're not going to really be able to compare that like we've compared previous seasons, because that is going to a streamer. That is not the typical, hey, these many people are watching, whatever. So we're going to have to judge it differently. But whenever that hits, if it proves popular enough, I would love to just go, okay, let's just do a 3rd season of that. Except whatever we're doing, like elsewise, it doesn't necessarily have to affect that. It can if we want. But like you see shows get renewed all the time on like the edge, right? You don't know if they're going to be renewed or not. And teams have to kind of change plans, adapt, come up with things that they weren't planning to, go with plot points that they weren't planning to. But some of that stuff has been really interesting. Some of it's not so interesting. So it's a crapshoot. But like, I still would like to see a 3rd season greenlit and just do that. Like, you don't have to sign them on for like 6 years. But if, hey, who wants to come back and do this?
Right.
9 times out of 10, most will be down to do it if the experience wasn't, Buffy. What we've learned behind the scenes, right? Like, like most people.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just gonna add. It seems like better for the performances as well. Because a lot of the times, like towards the end of the series, these actors are like on the top of their game because they've been through the entire run with them by that point, and it sucks we lose them right at their peak. It's basically happened even. It's happened in this Hasbro era. If we lose the Dino Fury Rangers, it happened with Beast Morphers. It honestly happened with Ninja Steel too. It's like they get comfortable in this style, they finally figure it out, then they're gone. Yeah. And like you said, I wouldn't mind seeing a cast given a chance for a 3rd season. I think, and then continue from there, right? Like the same thing of. Well,
even
whoever wants to go can go, like you were saying.
I was gonna say, even just keeping the cast or allowing the cast that want to come back. I mean,
Yeah.
Brendan Mejia, right? Your Dino Charge Red Ranger.
Oh
loves
yeah.
Power Rangers and would love to come back whenever they want him to come back. Like he's already said, like I will come back any year you want. Just let me know. He was a good character. He was a good actor. His voice direction was great. He's an athlete on top of that. Like he can do his own stunts for the most part. Like he is exactly, in my opinion, the kind of character you want to hold on to and really kind of build, a legacy and a lore around. Because it really feels like they've always tried to capture this. At one point, anyways, like who's going to be the next, JDF? Who's going to be the next ASJ? Who's going to be the next face, the icon of the brand? And then it feels like they kind of gave up on that, and they're just like, "Yep, we're never going to find someone, so we'll just plaster the MMPR red helmet everywhere when we talk about Power Rangers, and that'll be our icon going forward. No faces, just a helmet." But they have a chance to really like stick with a good, wholesome person like Brendan is. Or Hunter Dino looks like she's really enjoying her role.
Agreed.
It's you have all these really talented people, beautiful people too, that could really be great iconic roles. The guy who played Jaden from Samurai, like he loved being on the show. And he was even a kind of a part of things all the way through Super Megaforce to an extent. But again, like it's like, okay, well, bye. Like I want them to find someone and kind of make them be that new central character that, I mean, the story doesn't have to revolve around them, but at least it gives people who are watching the show a reason to keep watching, because it's really hard to get attached to these characters that you only see realistically twice a year, right? Because of the hiatus that we've been used to. You get them in a chunk, then you don't get them, and then you get them a chunk, and that's it. You only see them 4 times over 2 years. You finally get attached to, or you get used to it. You get comfortable with their acting, with the story, with the characters, and then they're gone.
Yeah.
And then you have to do it all over again. And just as you start feeling comfortable, they're gone again. And the problem is in that 2-year stretch where you only saw them 4 times, especially if you're a kid, it's really hard to keep your interest.
Yeah.
Like if I'm a Power Rangers fan, and we can talk about that too, but Nickelodeon and the ending of the Nickelodeon deal. If I'm interested in Power Rangers, nothing says keep my loyalty to the show by airing 8 episodes and then making me wait 9 months for the remaining 11. And that killed so much momentum and so much interest, because you know what happens in the 9 months between episodes? A lot. I can tell. I got kids, man. I can tell you what happens. A lot of shit happens. Bottom line is, a lot of stuff happens. And I know Matt can relate to that too. Like my kids 9 months ago are totally different kids.
Right. And also, just shows come and go now with the way streaming works, right? Like the entirety of Hawkeye would have happened between a hiatus. Like the entirety of whole shows, like Boba Fett, right? Like that whole series will probably have started and ended, and it probably would have ended if that was in between the time. That takes discussion away. So by the time you come back, you're coming back to a much different and also a much more crowded.
Well, there's so much content, and no longer, because content isn't on TV. What it's set to sweeps. Remember sweeps? That's when like all the the shows would come back in the springtime or in the fall time. Like sweeps is here. Streaming doesn't follow that schedule. Streaming goes, hey, we're releasing this now because no one else is releasing something, so we can own this month, we can own this week. So you have the problem of, if you don't have any content, and that's the thing too, is Power Rangers, not like Power Rangers kept airing on Nickelodeon during the hiatus. The show just wasn't even on.
Yeah,
for the most part, there was no reruns, nothing. It just wasn't on. Maybe I'm not Nicktoons or something like that, but I don't have Nicktoons. I have Nickelodeon. That's all I got in my house. I'm not paying extra $20 to get that cable package, but so there's nothing to keep your interest. And then if I'm a kid, like, I'm not gonna sit there and I didn't fall in love in the first 9 episodes. Like I grew up on Transformers. I didn't fall in love with Transformers watching 6 episodes. I grew up falling in love with it watching 52 episodes over the course of a year. Yeah. That's what got me my attention, my loyalty. Oh, new episodes, cool. It's
Which, by the way, we were very, if you look at it in that framework, we were very spoiled.
Oh, incredibly spoiled.
as
incredibly spoiled.
With like the rate they were chucking out animation.
Yeah, it was
they
like
were chucking episodes.
At one point, it was like one a day, right? Like it was like one new episode a day would come out.
Well, even in the 90s with Mighty Morphin, like they were literally, for like a 3 period, there'd be new episodes every single day for 3 weeks.
Yeah, there we go. That's what it was.
They were daily. That's
and yes, we were incredibly spoiled. And so now it's like we get Boba Fett's 5 episodes, 6 episodes, something like that. Like
Yeah.
and then you have to wait maybe 2 years for the next season, and it's
it's a much different world, but that's actually a perfect segue because next time around, a lot has happened.
next
Right,
time
so
on Power Rangers.
Dino Fury season 2 is going to be on Netflix, and it's going
Yeah.
to be now. They haven't revealed yet exactly, because like we've seen different rollout. Like Netflix keeps toying with their format. You have stuff like which is the typical method of here's the entire season all at once.
Cobra Kai, here's the entire season all at once.
Then you have some like Arcane, where they've kind of toyed with, okay, here's like 3 episodes, and then here's the next thing of 3, and then here's the next thing of 3, and then you have some, of course, like Disney Plus and some of the other streaming services do weekly. I don't think Netflix will ever go to a weekly format, but they have been toying with things.
As someone who watches anime for a living, they have already been doing weekly.
Oh, with anime.
So, yeah, with anime and like shows like The Circle, they would do like at first it would start off with like 3 episodes, then it'd do 1 a week. So they've been testing it out here and there.
I think I have their release schedule figured out. They're going to release 9 episodes sometime in March. And then 14 episodes or 13 episodes to finish out the rest of the whole series sometime in September, October. And that's
they'll never tell you about it. They'll never tell you.
Because didn't they do that anyways with Netflix? I mean, I get it was a whole different deal, but they would release the first half of a show, and then a week after the last episode aired on Nickelodeon, they released the second half of the series. So don't be surprised if that exact same thing happens.
I would be curious here's the thing, if that happens, if they stick with that, which is the way they had to do this one, but I also went, okay, well, is that permanent? Is that just a deal because Nickelodeon obviously had the rights for, like they're in the middle of their airing of episodes, and maybe they didn't want to screw with it too much. I would be curious. I'm okay with, I don't love that, but at least I'm okay with binging. I'm a binger by nature as far as Netflix goes. I will run through season. I watched all of season 2 of Witcher in a matter of like a day. It's a day and a half, right? Like I can do that, and I enjoy it. And I'm like good. Like Hawkeye, I would have binged it. I was fine with a week, but I'm okay with just going through that. So I don't mind doing that. I know some people aren't the biggest fans, but if they do the first 9 episodes, honestly, Witcher was 8.
Yeah.
Witcher was 8. Hawkeye
9
was
wouldn't
6.
be so bad. 9,
right?
like
so 9 is like me getting pretty much a complete season of any other show, and then on top of that, I'm only getting half. So I'm getting, even if you count like a couple episodes in the middle or filler or whatever. But Dino Fury was much better about that and didn't have as much.
Is there 42 total episodes? Is that right? 21 a season technically, or is it 44? Because I thought there was 2 specials each season.
I was promised there would be no math in this.
I was thinking.
I don't
on this Twitch stream. I was promised.
I'm sorry. I don't recall.
I have no idea.
Because I'm like, if there's 21 episodes, they could release 3 a week. That would give you 7 weeks of content.
I'd be okay with that.
Which takes you 2 months through the year. But then when you release it, I wouldn't release it till summertime when kids are off school.
Right. Well, and so there's some flexibility there too. Of when do they actually release it? I'd be okay with the 9. I would actually be okay with 3. I'd be fine with all of them at once. Like it doesn't bother me. I don't think all of them at once, to your point, will happen. I just think production wise, especially if you consider things taking longer because of the pandemic, I don't think that's going to happen.
But didn't they finish their ADR like 3 weeks ago, anyways?
Yeah,
they just finished ADR not that long ago.
Yeah,
we'll get half a season and then half a season a couple months later, and that's fine with me.
That's a lot.
It is a lot, and then then you have the movie factored into it. Movies potentially, movies quote unquote for Netflix, and those will pop in between seasons of shows, and who knows how that's going to connect, whether it's going to be a thing you can watch on its own, whether it's going to be a thing you have to watch because of the other thing, or like, that's what I'm curious about too.
Yeah.
But what I'm also curious about is whether that means we get more stunts in Power Rangers in general, like stunts, quote unquote, like the Zed return, like the Austin St. John return.
I think meant like actual like cool stunts.
I mean, there's already cool stunts.
I thought that's what you were talking about.
I will literally offer donations to the production company if they just bring back real sparks. That's all I want.
Yeah,
They need
just
That's all I
They
want.
need the pyro team from WWE. That's what they. That's what they really.
Check mark, another wrestling reference. There we go. Check mark.
Yep.
But yeah, like more stunt programming, because like one of the benefits of streaming, you see it and you forget it, but one of the benefits is unfortunately the spoiler culture that has popped up from it. And you saw how much traction the Zed leak got. Unfortunately, that stuff did leak out before. There's some key stuff that happens in Dino Fury that got leaked out.
I don't know if I'd call it a leak. I mean, it
aired
aired on TV in a different
national-
country. Like,
If I didn't see it, it's new to me. So
We're learning so much about Nick.
in the background, Hasbro's just like,
Yep.
we don't acknowledge anything outside the
I mean, if I didn't
Pacific
see
or
it,
Atlantic Ocean boundaries.
if I didn't see it, it's new to me. And but
yeah.
yeah, like I wonder if because that's the stuff that'll get people watching now. It's because there's no normal schedule, because there's no like so honestly, because of Zed, I remember that there were even more Dino Fury episodes, and I was like, oh, I should and then Netflix popped them up, and I was like, oh, cool. And so I'm hoping that's what that means, but also who knows what they want to do with Hasbro wants to do with their new universe and stuff. Who knows if they even want to
create it, hopefully, because
So here's So here's the thing. That is true. That is a good point, because part of me, Netflix is notorious for jumping in big. Okay,
right.
jumping big, making a big splash,
like with Miller World,
and then going, oh, that didn't quite perform. So we're gonna, and Miller World got off easy, right? They at least got a spinoff, an anime spinoff, and we're going to Super Crooks and things like that. Like, if it doesn't super perform well, and I think honestly, also just going back to that real quick, I think that was only because they shelled out an astronomical amount of money for this publishing, and they're just waiting for Nemesis to get away from Paramount or whoever the hell has it. They just want Nemesis. Like, everyone wants a Nemesis movie or a series, and like they're just like praying that like please don't make that, let us have it. But like,
they want it until they make it.
They paid a ton of money for that side of property, so I think honestly you're just gonna get a couple things for that. In Power Rangers case, I don't know how much they paid for Dino Fury, right? But they have shown a willingness to cut things off if it is not performing. They have also shown, though, take The Witcher as a perfect example of this. They went all in on Witcher, and I'm a big fan of that franchise, right? But did not expect the level of, hey, we're getting seasons of the regular show. We're going to get a prequel series that is coming out this year. We're going to get an anime movie, which was dope, by the way. We're going to get an anime movie that came out tied in lore-wise to the live-action series. We're getting another movie this year or next year. And then on top of that, we're also going to get the kids animated series, which I have no idea what the heck that's going to be. But like, that is all from one show and one franchise, and they have branched out in a matter of 2 years. That's a lot of projects for a relatively smaller IP. This is not Marvel, this is not DC, this is not something that is so widely known. So it is now, it's getting to that point, but it was not then. So that shows that they are willing to shell out the money and put the production teams in if they feel like there's an audience to perform. So that makes me happy. But then you have Cowboy Bebop, and then you have other shows that get cut, even though they're successful and pull in a lot of streamers.
I think one thing to remember too, though, is The Witcher didn't have its own entertainment studio on top of it, whereas Hasbro, for example, Power Rangers has E1, and before that it was all Spark Productions. But so they have their own production company, and Netflix is just the provider that's going to carry the process. So the question is, how much of a, hey, Netflix, you're going to take some ownership of this and get some sweet cash in return, versus, hey, do you want to help foot the bill and you get the exclusive rights to it?
Right. That's true too.
So that is a very important question, because like I said, there is E1 Productions, and E1 seems to be very, I mean, you see a lot of interviews about what they want to do. We just haven't seen anything actually come from these interviews of what they want to do about everything, all the brands. The brands have kind of been at a standstill for the last year and a half. I mean, I know we just had like the Transformers animated series the War for Cybertron trilogy, whatever, finish up. But I mean, those are all produced sequentially. It's not like they produced one, waited, produced another one, waited. They produced them all back to back to back or what have you. But My Little Pony, they had a movie, but that was it. and can't really say there's much fanfare. G.I. Joe, I think they weren't expecting it to be as successful merchandise wise. So they're behind the 8 ball as far as like now they're rushing to get stuff made and put out there because it's like, oh, this is actually very well performing. And Transformers, they're in that weird shift right now where it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do now? And Power Rangers, same boat. Like, we had all those rumors about the future of Power Rangers, like what's going to happen, what's next. We still don't honestly know.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about a movie, right? So we know we're getting a movie at some.
Jonathan Entwistle's name is still attached to projects. We don't know what he's done with anything yet. Like the scriptwriter, I believe the scriptwriter's changed, so it's not the same script person anymore. So we know that's changed. But that's literally all we know about
all
anything.
We have outside of that is leaks and scoops.
Hearsays, and I'm guilty of that. I'll be the first one to throw it out there too. I'm guilty of that. Yeah, I mean, and I know, Matt, you don't say much because you probably can't, but I know you hear things too. So we all hear things.
I know nothing.
Exactly, he knows nothing. we all hear things, whether we want to admit it or not. We all hear things, and it's just a matter of what thing we're hearing is the right thing. Yeah. Which, truth be told, sometimes it's none of them. None of them are. But.
That's always the case. Oh man, this is going to be huge, and it's like, wow, that was the polar opposite of what what I thought it would be.
I mean, I guess to put my cap on that, at least stuff is happening, right? At least like there are
very optimistic point of view.
Well, you hear that the wheel is spinning. You hear people talking about how wheels are spinning and things are happening, but we don't see anything happening.
That's enough for me.
And it's they say like possession is 9/10 the law, right? Like perception is 9/10 reality. So if you don't see anything happening for 9/10 of the population, that means nothing's happening.
Oh, so what you're saying is
God, don't tie it in somehow to your.
What you're saying is if I don't see it, it didn't happen, right? So
I swear to Lord.
What have I done? I'm so sorry.
He always finds a way. Life finds a way, and so does Nick.
That's a good quote, actually.
Right? Yeah. So I think that's actually a really good place to end our 2021 discussion. Because I think that's almost everything. I think we covered comics for the most part. Comics kind of tangentially through everything else because I feel like it runs. I will say real quick, I have really enjoyed the comics side of the universe. Power Rangers as like Mighty Morphin and Power Rangers as 2 separate books. Power Rangers as the book I have adored since it launched. I feel like that's just series like
a total fanboy of Ryan Parrott. Like, I'm total fanboy of Ryan Parrott at this point. I mean, the fact that he's been able to run 2 books simultaneously, and I know he's had help, but still, like, to create the world and the universe he's done. I mean, you almost forget they introduced new Green Ranger last year. Yeah. Because you're so caught up in everything that's happening right now in the Altarian War and stuff, or Altarian War. Lord Zed's origin has been revealed, and
Zed stuff.
You wouldn't know this because it's not canon, but.
No, I mean, I jumped off. I jumped off at the brand change.
Nick,
that's when it got really. That's when it got. Like,
it got so good.
It got really good. Like it was good before, and that's really good.
It's been a long 2 years, everybody, and I was like, oh, the brand changed, and
see, I've
gotten my fill of arcs with the
Shattered Grid for me is like up here, right? Shattered Grid in the Power Rangers comic book universe for me was like the top of the top, like. That's just my mindset. Like I thought Kyle's writing on it was fantastic. The stuff Ryan was doing with Go-Go included with it, it was all fantastic. This Eltarian War and everything leading up to it is right. I mean, we're talking like this. Yeah, it's so good, and
all the payoffs have been just.
And Ryan is fantastic with payoffs like that. Yeah, like he is so. He was great at it with Go-Go. And you're really seeing it now as it's taking its own. The only nitpicks I would have about anything comic book related were I really wish we'd get more focus on Rocky, Adam, and Aisha. Like we kind of did at the beginning. And then it immediately just became the Tommy, Matt, Jason, Zach, Trini, Zordon, Billy story.
I think that's why I've appreciated Power Rangers more than Mighty Morphin is because Mighty Morphin kind of became more Tommy centric, and for okay, my tell me so. Because that became so centric, and then over in Power Rangers, we actually got new dynamics between Zach
Yes.
and Trini and Jason, and it's stuff that like to me, the growth that they've had in that book alone has been like tenfold, just compared to the others. Mighty Morphin, because they're having to share with so many other people, but also just because it is so Tommy and Matt centric. I like the Matt as Green Ranger.
I do too. I think, I really hope they get a chance to when Matt Groom takes over. I really hope he gets a chance to expand on that even more, because I just love that whole like, hey, it's my girlfriend's ex-boyfriend, and now he's a Power Ranger. Now he's included in that circle, which is the part. And as I said in the comic, it didn't happen. Spoilers, but But I mean, it's part of the reason why they didn't work in the first place, is because he couldn't be part of that secret, even though he knew he didn't know, and now he knows he's part of the team. And so now you have this like love triangle issue that's popping up. I love that, and I love Power Rangers. It's my favorite thing. It's my favorite thing that involves 3 high school dropouts. Like, I think it's a great. I mean, they're not going to school, right? They went to a peace conference and they dropped out of high school. So Jason, Zach, and Trini are high school dropouts. I'm throwing it out there right now.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And Nick does not read the comics, so
if I don't see it,
oh my god! All right. So we're gonna move real quick, because I know we talked a lot about 2021, and before we all get out of here, I do want to touch on 2022. So, what are we looking forward to? There's not a ton of confirmed stuff, on the docket yet. But
can we talk about rumored stuff, or is it just only confirmed stuff? We can talk about it.
It doesn't exist to Nick, but yes, we can talk about it.
Well, I mean, at one point there was a rumored Lord Draken helmet coming, which I'm all for if that ever does pan out.
How has that not been done yet? To me, is
I like I said, I thought I could be wrong. Maybe that's what ended up becoming Lord Zed, and they couldn't figure out what it was going to be. Some Mighty Morphin evil helmet, I think, is maybe what the listing was. But I'm excited. It does look like, per leaked listings and people's math, from Josh over at Living Ranger Key at PR Lightning Figs or whatever, who's been very good at all that stuff. It looks like we do get our Dino Fury Green Ranger in the Lightning Collection form. It looks like we do finish off, or we start hitting into Time Force with at least Time Force Green. Now I'm trying to remember what else there was. A blue Ranger helmet, Mighty Morphin Blue Ranger helmet, a Lightning Collection red Power Sword. Which I'm excited about because I missed the Bandai one.
Me too.
I really don't want to spend like $600 for it now. And of course, you have Zap. You have the upcoming Megazord, the Zord Ascension project, the Zap Megazord. Which means the Dragon Zord, the listing for the Dragon Zord already been found on retail. So I'm sure at some point that'll probably get revealed as well. Which at that point, it really only leaves one more piece to come out from that era, but.
Yeah,
but I mean, Hasbro's been very forward about asking fans what they want to see going forward. They're not necessarily going to go in chronological order, so they say.
Yeah, that's a lot of good stuff. I hope that the Dino Fury does make it into that round. And the Zord Ascension stuff does look killer. It looks good, and I saw Nick's face light up when that said, "Is that?"
Here's the thing, right? So
just do the regular thing and just do it, release it.
Here's the thing, right? You have to look at the business model practice of it, right? A Mighty Morphin Megazord, okay, right? It's not currently available on the market. It's not, which means it's the perfect time to release one. Don't forget, you also have the Flame Toys has their reimagining.
Yeah, it's the perfect time to release a regular Megazord.
They did last year on Amazon for
artistic, whatever,
$40.
Ascension project.
They did. I have it. It's right. Oh, my kid's playing with it somewhere, but it's. I got a damaged one on Amazon for $9. The box had a hole in it. That's nice. What I paid for. But no, collector grade wise, I'm not gonna lie. I thought about selling I got my Legacy Ultras are sitting on my top shelf over there. It's like I thought about that going for like $700 right now.
Ooh.
You know, so it's like, yeah, open, like pre-owned. So it's like, if people are willing to pay that much money for a Megazord, yeah, it's time to release one. And the Zap one, what I do like about it is that it doesn't look exactly like every other release we've already gotten.
But I want one like every other release we've ever gotten.
You had your opportunity at the Soul of Chokogen, and if you didn't grab the Soul of Chokogen, that's your fault.
Yeah,
If I don't see it,
Nick.
it doesn't exist to me. This is Hasbro tells me what I want, and then I'm like, okay, I want that, and then I am their perfect Power Rangers consumer, except when I don't like things.
You really are, though. Okay, so is there something that you are looking forward to this year, Nick?
No, I mean,
from what you've seen that you can qualify as existing, is there something you're looking forward to? And keep in mind, this is Hasbro's Power Rangers, which means they're only, I mean, technically, Nick, since they haven't announced the Lightning Collection in Space Silver Ranger, to you, he doesn't exist.
He does not. No.
He's already been released on the Hasbro Pulse, even though he's still yet not announced.
I've seen some tweets, but they don't exist to me.
If it's not from at Power Rangers or at Hasbro, it doesn't count.
No. I wouldn't mind more helmets. Like I said, the Zed helmet, I'm complaining that we're getting a Zed helmet first instead of like the other colors, but like I'm still buying the Zed helmet. I'm still gonna buy whatever helmets they come out with, whether it's a Draken, even though I want the rest of the team first before these randos, but like I'm buying them. Those are cool, and that's all it is really. I just want more of that, and like we were saying before with the Netflix stuff, I want to hear something. Like we need something concrete, like a logo at least, like a new Power Rangers logo at least.
Well, yeah, it doesn't really something. If it doesn't feel concrete and real unless there's literally something real.
Yeah.
Like even like you said, just even a logo like Power Rangers on Netflix, or like Netflix Power, instead of some Bonds Power Rangers, Netflix Power Rangers. Just releasing that, like coming 2023, 2024, whatever. It's like you start applauding it, the fandom gets excited, people have questions every time.
Exactly.
Hasbro steps to the microphone, they're getting 100 questions about it. That's all you got to do. That's all you have to do. And the fact that you don't have that is the fear of it might not happen. Yeah, because if it's going to happen, you would think something would be out there saying it is going to happen.
If I'm not seeing it, it's not happening, right?
I agree with him though on that.
I set him up. I'm sorry. I walked right into that one.
So I'm going to add that to mine, as in, yes, I would like some kind of confirmation. Let's get a logo. Let's get something.
Yeah, like let's get something.
As far as things, to close this out, let's see. For me, I'm more of a. I really would just like a bigger focus. Like when Dino Fury Season 2 hits, I want a bigger focus of Dino Fury merch. And that goes across the board. So like I want more Dino Fury figures in the Lightning Collection line. It would be nice to go to the toy store and not find the same 4 figures.
You want them to market the show?
Yeah, I would like them to market the show. I would like them to but like that's my biggest thing is I just really enjoy talking about the show. It's nice to have that enthusiasm from the community again. It feels like it's really pleasant to talk about Dino Fury online about Power Rangers, and that is not something that is like should be ignored, right? That's something we haven't had in past seasons for a while. So I would just like to capitalize on that and point people to something. Also,
when Power Ranger fans don't have Power Rangers to talk about, they literally start eating each other.
Yes, they do.
For the well-being of the fandom before it kills itself. Please release more Power Ranger content.
That's pretty much it. And then the other thing would be one of the things I didn't mention before, but like 2021 has actually been quite good for the board game side, tabletop side of Power Rangers. Yes. We've got a bunch of great stuff from Renegade. 2022 actually sees the release of the actual RPG, the actual official RPG from Renegade. And then we're going to get more, most likely, deck building expansions. We're going to get Heroes of the Grid just came out with a big expansion. So like that has been going on quite smoothly. I would just like to see that keep running because it's awesome. At this point, I feel like we're going to get more Rangers and Heroes of the Grid than like it's going to start
You're not wrong.
surpassing Lightning Collection very
But
quickly.
what will you do? What will you do when Player Renegade releases the next expansion and it's got metallic Mighty Morphin Rangers in it?
I'll still buy it.
And it's the same figures, but they just have a new shiny coat.
I'll still buy it because those games are good.
And one of the options they'll always have is
Peter
in
figures
space. No, in space, all blue. Just all blue little in space figures. Just,
You know,
like
you're only 3 figures away from having that at mass retail.
I just want if I'm not going to get Mystic Force Lightning Collection figures, I want Mystic Force expansion for Heroes of the Grid. That is how like we have a Hyperforce like mode already in there, right? We've got figures from that. We've got Time Force. We've got In Space. We've got like so many. Omega Rangers are already in Heroes of the Grid. So I would
cloth or plastic capes. Cloth or plastic capes.
Yeah, and cloth capes because Magna Defender disappoints me.
Plastic capes.
And and that's why there's no Mystic.
Cloth always looks chintzy. It always.
Andros, I was gonna say Andros' pimp robe just doesn't quite work on disguised Andros Lightning Collection figure. Like it just, I've already I call it my Austin St. John Lightning Collection figure, and I don't have it because I've been redoing my shelves. But it's the Mighty Morphin figure with like the Zeo Gold San Diego 2-pack, so the smiling face.
Nice.
And he's got Prophet Director Destro from Geo Classic. He's got his gold chain, his sunglasses, and the flaming dollar bill, and he's got the robe on from Disguised Andros.
Nice.
And he sits by himself. That's my custom. That's as custom creative as I get. Like some people paint their figures, I just put other pieces on them and call it
as it should be. You know what? Live your custom.
I'm living my best custom life right now.
But that's what I want. I think I would prefer plastic, just because even though some people don't like the sculpted nature of plastic capes and they're hit and miss, I still love the look. Aesthetically, it is pleasing to look at on the shelf as opposed to a cloth.
You feel like you're capturing a scene versus
it just sticks out, and it hardly ever, I won't say never, but it hardly ever looks good. So
would you pay $30 for a Mystic Force figure that had like a cloth cape but it had the wire frame so you could actually bend it out a bit? No,
mostly because I'm going to do that once, and then I'm gonna like put it on the shelf, and I'm going, nah, it's not worth the extra $10. It's not worth $10. I'm never gonna repose it unless it falls off the shelf. I'm never gonna repose it.
That's absolutely fair.
This stuff right here has been here since I put it there. I don't move them. I don't like.
You don't dust.
But I don't have the room to pose. It's I don't have the room.
How dusty is that, Matt?
See, we're still in the process right there. Yeah, we're still cleaning.
That's blank canvas right there. Okay. So
it wasn't canon until you showed it. Really.
Okay. Well, I actually think that's a fitting place to end this. So I think we've come full circle. To everyone who we had a bunch of people pop in and stuff. Thank you so much for taking the time to jump in. We will also have this on the YouTube page and on the podcast channels as well, to your normal podcast providers and everything, so you'll be able to listen to this as well if you didn't see it here. But thank you so much, Chris, for jumping on. Nick, it is always a pleasure. Thank you guys for talking some Power Rangers. I sincerely miss this. This is like one of my favorite things to do throughout the year when we did it, and I just missed it.
Well, thanks for having me on again. Like it's a pleasure to be on your first show back, and hopefully things are awesome, and you guys continue to be able to do this and get bigger and bigger and grow, and I can pop back on in another year. We could talk about
there it is,
all the things that didn't happen in 2022 and all the things that we know in 2023 and what we're hoping for in 2024.
Just mark the space on the calendar. You are the official year beginning guest,
and I hope next year Nick is talking about the Omega Rangers as canon, because something happened to make them canon in his eyes.
I mean, we will see. You are a part of the show's canon. You are a part of the Putty Hours canon, Chris. So
thank you.
Now that you've thrown that into the ether, that's foreshadowing. Maybe in a year, cut to a year later, we'll see where I'm at.
Clip it.
That's amazing. Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and until next time, peace.